In this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about DAK2, which is a gamer's game from the Operational Combat series, and it covers North Africa in great detail, from the Italian invasion of Egypt in 1940, I think September, all the way through being driven back toward Tripoli in like November of 1942. And I mean, it's a huge game, although it's manageable because there's not a lot of counters on it at any time. And there's a lot of inactive periods. But the map is like 10 feet long. And there is an option, which I recommend, to take the Cairo part of the map off and use a small little, an abstract version of map E. Then it cuts it down to like 8 feet. It's still 8x4. It's quite a large game. It's pretty much the largest that I can handle in my setting. But I wanted to talk a little bit about DAK2, and this all pretty much would apply to the original game, DAK, as well. One of the unique things to play the entire campaign, which you don't have to do, there's a lot of scenarios and smaller map scenarios also that work really well. But if you play the campaign scenario, I think it's like 213 or 215 turns. And because in this game, a turn represents like 3.5 days. 2 turns represent a week. And one of the interesting things that Dean Essig did in this game is under the campaign victory conditions. Because a lot of times we look forward to some tangible victory conditions, but this is what he said under the scenarios, the campaign victory conditions. He says, if it isn't obvious, it's a draw. So I'm sure some people have a hard time with that, but his reasoning continued that basically Rommel's objective was to get into Cairo, get to the Suez Canal, and obviously the Allies was to drive him back, toward Tripoli. So if at the end of the game the forces are right on the Egypt-Libyan border, I mean, nobody won. And the degrees of victory maybe depend on what shape is the other guy's army in. If it's completely destroyed, even if he's still on the map, yeah, he lost. So that's kind of an interesting view, and I think it definitely works, especially for a player like me who plays for the story mostly. And and sometimes both sides claim victory. And I mean, I guess beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. So that's one of the things I wanted to comment on with this game. Another thing that this game introduced were leaders, which you would expect in North Africa, because most North Africa games have some special rules for Rommel, and Rommel definitely can be used in this game, but the Axis have some other interesting units with Italy, including, General Maletti is there, so he operates similar to the way Rommel would. They basically, if he's on a stack, he can activate them during the exploitation phase or the reaction phase on a die roll. So that's an interesting innovation, of course. So Rommel can do that too, but Rommel also has his stork, and he can get in that and fly to wherever he wants to. But the game also includes these ad hoc formations called raggruppamentos, and the Italians have a number of these that come in during play, and I think they're often named after the officer that was in charge. So you have the Bergonzoli group that comes in for a while. You have the Bignami group and the Piana group. And when they're in play, they operate kind of like a reserve marker, but you do have to roll to activate it, so it could fail. It's not quite as powerful as a leader, but it's fairly close, and it enables you to function a little bit more as a multi-unit formation, even though the units aren't related to each other. So that's an interesting thing that's been brought in, because the game also brings in leaders for the Allied side too. So you have O'Connor, you have Campbell, and some of these figures appear during certain parts of the game. So I liked that addition. As I was saying, I wanted to talk about the random events, which was added into this game. I don't remember random events being part of earlier OCS games, but this introduces a random events phase for the campaign, and it's done right after the weather determination each turn. And basically, the random events uses an 11 to 66 table, but there are a number of these tables. So the first table you roll on is called the common events, and some of these are historical, some of them are not, but they're more generic. However, when you roll on the common events table, there is like a 22% chance of rolling a result that says roll on the less common events table. So there's another 11 to 66 table of less common events. And, I guess about 2 times in every 10 turns, you're going to get a less common event, which you roll on that table, which also has a number of historical things that happened. And then there is a chance, I guess it turns out to be about a 2% chance to roll on another table, the rare events table. Again, has some historical, some less historical. And I would say the rare events, if you play an entire campaign game of over 200 turns, you might get 6 times in that game or so that you'll get a rare event. And then that's an 11 to 66 table as well. And then there is another chance on that table to roll on what is called the ultra rare events. And I would say that you basically have a 50-50 chance in an entire campaign of over 200 turns of getting 1 roll on the ultra rare events table. And these are highly unusual things that maybe could have happened but didn't, although there is one historical one on here that did actually happen. And so if you get the ultra rare events roll, 1 time in the game and you roll a 52 to 54, you get this historical event, an SAS raid on Crete airfields. So this can only happen once, and Crete has to be in the Axis hands, which usually it would be. And you need to have an SAS unit in play, which is one of the commandos. And what you do is remove that commando from the game permanently because it went on this raid against Crete. And you get to roll a die for each air unit that's in Crete and see if it's destroyed or reduced or not. And so that's an example of an ultra rare event that did happen historically that could come up in this game, but very likely won't come up in this game. So it's one of the things I wanted to comment on that this game introduced, the ultra rare events and the rare events. It's just a nice touch, especially to those who are playing for the story. Anyway, DAK2 is an excellent game. I know it's very expensive to get, but I'm glad that I have it. Quite a few years ago, I also had DAK, the original one, but I sold that one after I got DAK2 and didn't need both of them. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.